Oh, wow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our live shoot today. We've been doing some different things this past few weeks. We're going to circle back to something that we've done previously, but in a different light. We have some. We're gonna engrave a photo on acrylic, and but we're gonna use a special process. Now we've done some ornaments recently, but this process is not exclusive to ornaments. The painted acrylic, we're gonna do a special process using paint on the acrylic. We have a special guest that's gonna help us out with that. If some of you may know Derek already. Derek Lee is Tong's son, but he's also our IT director, and he's also the gear grinding behind the scenes that keeps pushing the IT department and our web development team to make sure we're getting the great stuff to you on our web store. He's going to get into our process for you. I will stay on board, or I'll be able to help you answer some questions while we're going here. And because I sound like I'm completely off script, I'm going to hand it over to Derek.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. So yeah, today we are going to engrave a photograph on our extruded acrylic, the same acrylic that we used, when was that? Last month, yes, sometime, for the ornaments. And instead of cutting, we're going to engrave into them. But one of the things we did to help the photo pop more is that we spray painted it black. So we're going to do kind of something similar that we might do on granite or slate, except what I love about this extruded acrylic is it's a little bit more forgiving, because if I punch too hard through the, or set my power settings too high, instead of the dot getting bigger as, you know, the laser gets hotter, the material gets hotter, it actually just goes deeper. It gets a little bit bigger, but it goes deeper into the acrylic rather than, you know, making a bigger dot and kind of blowing out my image. So yeah, we're gonna go over just basic basic photo prep. I'm gonna keep that very minimal. We're going to go over some of the tips and tricks I learned from Chris Alexander at LaserCon. We're gonna go over sharpening. We're going to prep this photo. Instead of using PhotoGrave to dither it, we're going to use LightBurn, and then we're going to go over a secret magic trick that Chris taught me that will hopefully get us a better engraving. So yeah, let's get into it. So for this project, I chose a picture of my puppy. She is a little bit big, or a little bit older than 1 year old. Got her during COVID. She's amazing, super cute. Yeah, I really like this image. One of the reasons I picked this image is because it's a good image. Like, I know it's going to engrave well. It was taken on an iPhone, very high resolution, outdoors, good lighting. This isn't going to be a class about, you know, fixing up a bad image or making something with poor lighting pop. This is going to be more over just kind of the basics of engraving and going over how to test settings for a new material. So yeah, we're going to cheat a little bit. We're going to pick a good image that's easy to do, and we'll go from there. So to start out with, I'm going to throw this image into photo paint. And to do that, I'm going to open it up right into photo paint. I could open up photo paint first. I think I have it open down here. But I'm just going to right click on the image. I'm going to open with, and we're going to pick photo paint. As you can see, I have, you know, my practice one. We're going to delete that. We're going to start fresh. We have the image in here. It's pretty good, you know, looks decent. What I'm going to do first is in photo paint, you got this little cheater button right here. I can click auto adjust to see if there's anything. I think it brightened it up a little bit. I don't know if you noticed, just to kind of automatically fix some of whatever, you know, their AI software or whatever they use. It's probably not AI, it's probably just something simple. What things can make the image better. Another thing, next thing I'm going to do, well, I'm going to desaturate it to kind of mimic the grayscale look that we'll get from the laser, except it won't be grayscale. It's going to be a dithered black and white image. And from here, if I wanted to, we could go and we could play with the gamma, we could play with the tone curve, we could do a couple different things to, make the different shades, the mid-tones, the shadows, the highlights, balance a little bit better to make different areas of the engraving pop. If I was going to do that, I would look specifically in the eyes. I might be afraid that the eyes will be a little bit too dark, or that nose. As you can see, once we made a grayscale, well, actually the original image, I didn't have a lot of detail in that nose. Probably not going to get anything out of my left nostril there, but that's okay. It's still going to be a good image. We're going to go back to desaturate it, and yeah, I'm not going to play around with the tone curve or anything too much right now. I'm just going to kind of put it in the laser as is. But the other thing I wanted to show you to really get this image to pop more in the laser, to get more detail out, is sharpening the image. So by sharpening this image, it's gonna help the laser find that detail in the fur and the grass. Right now, even though this is a grayscale image, I still have shades of gray. When I put this in the laser, I dither it. I have blacks and I have whites. I have black dots and I have white dots, and there's no in between. So it's really, it's a good practice to define the edges of the details. It will really help that pop more in the laser. It was awful. It was terrible. Cut that. We'll cut that in post, right, Tony? It'll be fine. Okay, so to sharpen this image, we're going to go to Effects. We're going to Sharpen. We're going to go to Unsharp Mask. And you can see I have 3 tools. Once I go to this Unsharp Mask tool to kind of sharpen up my photo, see I have the preview, or the original. And then if I click Preview, it can show you what my settings are going to do. I have the main two I'm going to focus on are the percentage and the radius. So the radius defines how big of a dot it's going to sharpen. So you can see as I make that radius bigger, it makes the dot kind of bigger that it's sharpening around, and it makes it almost more cartoonish. So today we're going to actually engrave with a 1.5 inch lens, and I'm going to try to get as high of DPI as I can, which I'm pushing the limit at around 300. So I'm going to keep my radius down for anywhere between like 2 and 5. If I was going to try to do maybe a bigger portrait, right now, today we're going to do a 4x4 inch acrylic ornament. So I'm going to try to pump that DPI up. If I was doing a bigger engraving and I didn't want to be as careful with my settings, I might do 200 DPI, and I could probably push this radius a little bit bigger, kind of blow out that detail. But we're going to keep it at 5, and I'm going to hover. I don't know. Right now I'm just eyeballing it, seeing what looks good to me. As you can see here, it's soft. It looks nice on a screen, but it's not going to look nice on a laser. As nice. It'll still look decent. And we're going to bump this up to like 200, 300 for the percentage. And we're going to click OK. So now I have a pretty good image. You can see I got a lot of detail in that grass. I got detail in the fur, the nose, and we're going to go ahead and save this. So we're going to save as. I'm going to save this as a PNG, and you can see for this project I created a new folder on my desktop. I'm going to have a couple different files that I might want to go back to. I might want to tweak at a later point after I finish my engraving. So I'm going to have kind of a naming convention here. I have my original image. I saved as, or I just saved it out of my iPhone, whatever the iPhone just spits it out as. And this one I'm going to call Charlie. It's the name of my puppy. I'm going to call this PNG. I'm going to save this out of Photo Paint as a PNG. And I'm going to call it 1 in case I go back and create a couple different versions. I can kind of see how it evolved. I'm going to save this as a PNG. Just going to click Save. Now, Photo Paint's going to give me some options. PNG, I want 24-bit. Color mode, I want to keep this at an RGB 24-bit. That's going to give me the most data. all this other stuff, like I don't have a background in here, so it doesn't matter if I keep this as background or not. Yeah, we want this PNG 24-bit, anti-alias, all this stuff. It's fine. And we're gonna save. So now I have my image. All I really did was, oh, I missed a step. I'm gonna go back. We'll fix it in post. It'll be fine. It's gonna come to you. It's not gonna look like any of this. It's not like it's a live shoot or anything. Last step. Okay, so this is the magic step that I learned from Chris Alexander to try to get the most detail out of this image. We are going to resample. Right now, if you look at the resolution and the size of my image, it's a pretty big image. It was taken with a, iPhone, really good camera. I think it's like 1 meg or something as a file size. But it's 28 inches and by 21 inches, and it's 72 DPI. I actually want to save this at 1000 DPI to try to get as many pixels as possible in here. And I'm going to shrink this down a little bit so I can kind of maintain the integrity. We're going to make this like 6 inches tall. It's going to end up being a 4x4 acrylic ornament, but obviously once I cut out like what I want, I'm going to lose some of this background. So I think 6 inches will be what we need. Just going to click OK. Now we're going to go back and we're going to do what I did before. Save as. We're just going to save over this file. We'll be fine. Yeah. Same thing. 24-bit PNG. RGB color, 24-bit. All the same stuff. Now, I'm just going to let my computer load a little bit and going to click OK. Now we're good. Done with photo paint. Rocking and rolling. Now we're going to open up LightBurn and we're going to prep this image. So LightBurn, great software. Now Aaron has shown you quite a bit about it. I really enjoy it. RDWorks is a good tool too, but LightBurn has a couple extra, tools and settings that make my life a little bit easier. So I enjoy using it.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I've said it before. If you don't have LightBurn, it is well worth the investment. There are so many tips and tricks that will make your life easier that it almost feels like a shortcut. There's a slogan out there. Somebody in our chat room has it. Somebody's going to post it up here about LightBurn. But anyways, back to you, Derek.
AP Lazer Workshops, sponsored by LightBurn. We're not sponsored by LightBurn. I just like the software. Imports. Okay, so in LightBurn now. Do you have any questions, Aaron, from the chat before I get into this?
No, the only question that was there was Conklin was hoping we were doing cast acrylic, and I told him that this process would also apply to cast acrylic, and then as it turns out, he found out that he realized he actually does have extruded acrylic. So
if you have extruded acrylic, the difference between cast and extruded, I mean, besides how they make it, I don't really think I know. Like they extrude it, they push it out, they extrude it through like a little slot cast. I assume I don't know. I'm not a plastics engineer. Engraving, what we care about, the difference between cast and extruded acrylic. Cast acrylic engraves better. You get a really nice frosted dot. Extruded acrylic doesn't. We're using extruded today. But one of the tricks I did to try to get, extruded acrylic's cheaper than cast. It's made for cutting. But one of the tricks I did was I kind of borrowed a technique Chris Alexander uses for his floating portraits on glass. He spray paints it black and engraves through to get that, black and white. So I just spray painted the entire acrylic sheet black, and we're just going to engrave through this black spray paint to, get the contrast that we wouldn't get from extruded acrylic by itself. So the process is similar. Everything I've done up until now would be applicable if I was doing ornaments on cast acrylic. Prepping the photo, you're going to want to test a little bit differently. Cast is a little bit more, and getting an image out on cast. Acrylic is a little bit more difficult because the difference between your white dot that frosted dot and the background, which is just clear, you don't have as much contrast between, you know, a white dot and a black background. So just a little bit more testing. It's going to take a little bit more, you know, skill. Yeah, I wanted to do something a little bit easier. So we're doing what we're doing. I was going to say something else. Lost my train of thought. It's fine. Okay, we're in LightBurn. I'm going to import my image in. And we got my 6" by 8". Got a lot of dots in there. Got 1000 DPI. Oh, remembered. Okay, going back to it. Cast versus acrylic. If I'm dithering my cast, or when I'm dithering the image I'm doing now because I have a black background and I'm making a white dot with my laser, I'm going to invert the image, and I'll show you how to do that later in LightBurn. For cast acrylic, because you're making a white dot on a clear background, you're not going to invert your image. Main difference. Yeah, so I have my image, it's in LightBurn, we're good. Now I want to prep it, obviously, for a ornament. I don't want to make a 6" by 8" square ornament, and I really don't want a lot of this background. So what I'm going to do in LightBurn is I'm going to draw a 4" by 4" circle, and it's actually something I learned recently on LightBurn, and it's probably one of my favorite tricks. I'm going to resize, well, obviously I have a black circle. It's just whatever, you know, layer I chose. It can be whatever layer I want. I'm going to make this kind of lighter, like maybe a teal, so I can see it better on my black and white image. As you can see, there's a lot going on. But one of my favorite tricks is I can actually, in LightBurn, crop my image to this circle really easily, way easier than doing it in Photo Paint or, you know, Photoshop. So I'm just going to resize Charlie here. I'm going to try to get a little bit more of her back paw. Kind of focus on her face. I'm going to leave a little bit of space up here for, you know, my hanger. I'm going to cut a hole out here for it to hang the ornament on the tree, maybe, you know, put a string through it. But once I have this in the position that I want it, I'm going to highlight both objects, the vector circle and my BMP image. We're going to right click here, and I'm going to apply mask to image. And as you can see, I love this. It cuts out the image and to the circle that I created. Now it saves this kind of phantom of what the image used to be. So I'm also going to go in here, and I just kind of want to get rid of that. It annoys me. And I'm going to flatten image to mask. And now I don't have that phantom square. However, if I did keep it, the one nice thing is if I don't do that, I can always remove the mask from the image and get the original image back. But I don't care about that background. I'm just going to get rid of it. Just cut it. So we're just going to, well, just going to do that again. Apply mask to image, flatten image to mask. Now by flattening the image to mask, one of the things I did do is I lost that nice vector circle that I was going to use to cut this out. So I'm just going to redraw it. Really easy. 4 by 4. And then I need to make sure I position these on top of each other. So, oh, I think there's also a way to do this in my settings. I don't know. There's probably like 7 ways to do this in LightBurn. Someone's going to tell me in the chat that there's a faster way to do it. I'm sure there is. This is just the way I do it. Align center, and I'm just going to, so I'm using these little alignment tools. I have 2 shapes. Align them so that they're, you know, vertically center, and then align them so that they're horizontally center. Now I have in my settings bar, I have my image setting, and I have my, you know, cutout line. Last thing I would do to this to make sure I get a good ornament is, oh, I accidentally drew 2 circles. I'm going to draw a little circle. Maybe make it even, maybe like 1.5" by 1.5". I don't know. See how that looks. Throw this up here. Looks pretty good. Oh, before I do that though, I am going to group these so that when I move them around, I don't accidentally move one on top of the other. I'm going to draw that circle again so that it comes on top of these guys. I'm sure there's a window that I could do that, you know, without redrawing that circle. We're just going to do it this way.
Derek, if I may interrupt you, an easier way might be to go ahead. Frank from Pops Customs pointed out if we center the image on the page, and then also center the circle on the page.
Oh, yeah, we can do that too. Now, I'm not going to center this circle. I could have done that, yeah, so let's do this again. We're just going to delete this little circle. We're going to ungroup these. They're not on top of each other. What is it? Isn't there a shortcut like P? You can center them to page. P. Click on this one. P. Boom. They both got centered in the same page, or in the page. Accomplishes the same thing. Now I'm going to come here. We're going to group these together. I'm going to draw that little circle again. What is it, like 0.1576, whatever it snapped to. I'm going to drag this relatively where I think I want it to be, but just to make sure it's in the exact center of, you know, both my my ornament, I'm just going to align these center. And we're good. You know, this would be a decent ornament. Yeah, so I'm actually going to go through and I'm going to save this image. I'm going to save as. We'll call this Charlie, if I can spell. Ornament. Call this LightBurn. Just something like that. I don't know. Save. And I'm not going to actually run this file yet, because one of the other things I want to show you guys how to do is a way to kind of prep this. If I want to run a couple tests to try to, you know, optimize my speed and my power. Even I could do it with my DPI. I could play around with like gamma if I'm editing the photo, different sharpening tools. Just an easy way to run a lot of tests without engraving. Well, this isn't the entire photo, but this is still a 4" by 4", you know, photo. So instead of doing this big ornament, I'm actually going to go through, ungroup this. I'm going to delete this guy, and instead of doing my 4" by 4" circle, I'm just going to do I'm going to pick a 1" by 1" square on my photo. I'm going to pick an area where I think I'm getting a lot of lights and darks, you know, a range of highlights, my midtones, and my shadows. And I'm going to just crop this thing again. So we're going to go to Apply Mask to Image, and we are going to flatten image mask. So now I have a little 1" by 1" square. Now I'm still going to cut this out so I can, you know, kind of take it out and look at it a little bit better. Also, when you do engrave this, you know, spray painted extruded acrylic, it creates a lot of dust in the back. So sometimes I take out my object and I wipe off the back after it's done engraving, and it will let you see the image a little bit better. So that's why I'm just not gonna. I'm gonna cut out the 1" by 1" square so I can, you know, take it out, rub the back off, see really what the laser did. So, oh, I drew another square on accident. I'm gonna go do that little trick. Just gonna click. I'm clicking the P button. It's my shortcut to center to page. Click P again. Now I have this. You know, nice little 1 by 1 square cutout line to see to test some settings, to see how I can get the best results with my image. Now for the cutout line, I'm going to adjust the settings a little bit. We're going to do 0.7 inches and 95 power. Now I am running this on a 4024 100-watt tube. I might be able to run it a little bit faster than 0.7 inches when running like a cut on acrylic or really anything. Generally run my machines at 95% power, and you could do 100, you could do 92. Anywhere from 90 to 100 usually works, and then adjusting the speed to compensate. I like 95. I'm using the 1.5 inch lens, so I have to do it a little bit slower than I normally would with one of the bigger lenses because it doesn't cut as well. But I don't want to, I'm using it for the engraving. It engraves a lot better than the 2-inch lens with a little bit, higher DPI. So we're just gonna use it to cut as well. And then for my speed and power settings, I did quite a bit of testing last night actually. But just to show you, I actually found I liked 20 speed and 20 power really well. But I'm going to show you a couple different range. We're going to do 22, we're going to do 25 power, we're going to do 20 power. We're just going to compare and see what we like. Now, there's a couple factors that might affect the settings when engraving. I mean, every machine's a little bit different, even if it's the same wattage, 100 watt, 60 watt, 40 watt. Every tube has a little bit different. As you use your tube, your power will start to die. So it's good to get a baseline of what you're engraving at. And the other thing that will affect this is the spray paint, how thick you apply the spray paint. I tried to do as light as I could, but there might be some variance. So we're just gonna run a little bit of test. I'm doing this at 300 DPI. And I'm using, instead of using photo paint like I normally would, I'm going to use let LightBurn do the dithering for me, and I'm choosing Jarvis dither. So again, the magic secret that Chris Alexander taught me, the way he engraves his ornaments or his photos, he exports it out of photo paint at 1000 DPI, and he dithers it in LightBurn at 300 DPI. And what that essentially is going to do is having double the amount of dots than you're actually going to dither it with just gives you more data points for it to, when it calculates, how to break it up into dots. It has more dots than it needs to try to figure that out, and hopefully you get some better shading. Yeah, it depends on the image, but most of the time this works. So yeah, we'll start with 20, 22. We'll go up to 25, and then we'll go back down to 20, and we'll see how this compares. So I'm just going to click OK. I'm going to run this from the top left corner. Got my 2022, 0.5, 95. We're going to go ahead and send it. Awesome. Now we're going to go over to the laser. So if you guys can see in my machine, I have it set up. I got my spray painted piece of acrylic. It's flat. I have it relatively square to the machine. I didn't square it perfectly because we're going to be cutting this out. I didn't feel like I needed to, but I want it relatively square. We do want to make sure that all 4 corners are level. When using the 1.5 inch lens, you want to make sure you have to be very careful on your focus, and you have to be very careful that it's focused and level throughout the entire piece, or else you'll really start noticing a difference in the engraving. So I was prepared for this. I usually am not prepared, but I was prepared this time. And so I already leveled my machine. You can see top corner, we're doing good. Bottom corner, doing pretty good. Bottom right corner, perfect. And top right corner, we're rocking and rolling. So, if I did need to adjust it, I'd use my leveling legs and we'd be fine. But I'm not going to adjust it. Just going to go back over to the top left corner. Maybe adjust this a little bit. Make sure it's very focused. Make sure this clamp is really tight so it doesn't drop or anything. And then we need to turn our fume extractor on so I don't kill myself. So we're just gonna turn that on so I don't breathe in a bunch of acrylic dust. I'm going to click File on the machine. It's going to be the top file. I'm just going to make sure that, you know, it loaded correctly. Let that load. I'm going to click Origin. I'm going to frame out where I'm going to engrave on it. And small, not going to run that long. We're just going to click Start. There we're going. Okay, I'm going to move my laser out of the way. Let's hope that this cut all the way through. Was cutting all the way through last night with these settings, but okay, yep, we're good. You can see here, if I show it closer up, that, you know, you can't really see super well with the engraving when you first run it out of the machine. It's mainly because there's a bunch of acrylic dust in here. So I'm just going to take a, you know, paper towel. I just wiped off the back, and this is from the front where I actually engraved it, and then you can see here from the opposite side it actually looks a little bit better. So yeah, I think this did a pretty good job, if I can get the camera to focus on it. But we're gonna run this 2 more times. This one was, I used 20 speed, 22 power. We're going to run it 1 time at 20 speed, 20 power, or 25 power, and then another time at 20 speed, 20 power. We're just going to see how they compare. So I'm going back to my computer. I'm just adjusting those settings ever so slightly. Sending it back to the laser. Just positioning it so I can make the most of my space. Actually wasted quite a bit of material up here because I'm, you know, bad at my job, but it's fine. It's fine. Cut that. Okay. Origin, frame. I'm gonna put this piece right here. And we are going to start. Okay, I got my second one done. I'm just wiping it off with a paper towel. Actually going to mark with a Sharpie. Want to take some notes because these obviously aren't a finished product. So I like to always notate on the piece when I'm doing testing what I did so I can remember later. That's actually terrible. I'm gonna put a little bit. Just gonna put 22 up here. I'll put 25 on this piece. Then I have another camera angle I can show you guys. So you can see over here the difference between the 22 and the 25. If I didn't smudge it. There's not actually a lot of difference between these. I can't visibly see, you know, what we have. If I hold these up a little bit better, I'm not sure. I'm going to take a look at these real quick to see what actually the difference is. Visibly, I can't tell the difference between 22 and 25. I think this is because at this point we're just punching through the acrylic. And we're just going deeper. The higher power setting is just going deeper in there, but the dot size isn't actually getting that much bigger. I'm going to run one more test at 20 power. We're going to look at the three of them and see if they compare. Gonna just double check the focus real quick. Good. And we're gonna run it. So honestly, I think these all three are gonna look very similar. One of the things I learned when I was testing this, when I was testing out kind of the process, is that if you go too low on this spray painted acrylic, it actually makes the dot size bigger, which was really surprising to me. I think it's because if you don't punch all the way through that spray paint, you know, it's just melting it and making it bigger. But once you get the power enough, you're just blowing through it and going deeper into the acrylic. So we'll see. I actually lied. We'll run one more test after this. I'll show you guys at 16 power. I think is not going to look quite as good. Just gonna notate this guy. Putting a little 20 on here. Just notating the power setting I'm using for each of these. We're just gonna compare them. So we got 20, we got 22, and we got 25. So also this black tablecloth is kind of hard to see. You might not be able to tell. I think on the 20 speed we got a little bit more detail. Then on the 22 and 25, your dot size is becoming a little bit smaller there. And yeah, we'll run one more with 16 speed. And see if we can see a difference. Or 16 power, sorry. We'll run one more test at 16 power, and we'll see if we can see a difference. Double check the focus again, make sure it's very exact. Origin, frame. We're gonna run it. Okay. Move that. I'm gonna grab this piece out of here. Just gonna wipe it off a little bit with a paper towel to get that dust off there. Gonna notate this guy. We're just going to go back and we're going to compare our 4 engravings. I'm actually going to pick these up and take a look. So I actually don't see any difference between these. Now when I was testing these before, I noticed a pretty big difference between the 20 power and the 16 power, but I was also using, you know, a different piece of acrylic with, you know, I didn't spray paint it myself. Tong actually spray painted that piece for me. It might have been a little bit less even. I'm not sure. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong camera, obviously. Don't know what I'm doing, I'm new to this. So this is a lot more forgiving than the testing I did last night. Yeah, I'll set these pieces back over here so you can see, and we'll do the full ornament. We'll do it at 16 power, see how it goes. So here, back on my computer, I'm going to save this file as something different. We'll call this Charlie ornament. We'll call this test cube square. It's not cube, it's square. And we'll open our ornament file. So this one I had at 2022. We'll do this instead at 2016. And if we don't like it, we can do another one. I think we have time. Doing pretty good. 300 DPI. We'll do 0.7. Do 95 power for the cut. And yeah, we'll start in the top left corner. We'll send it to the laser. Okay. Now this one's going to take a little bit longer to run than our little 1x1 squares. I'm going to pull it up in here, make sure I pick the right file. I'm going to double check my focus. It's good. It's good. Origin frame. Looking pretty good here. and we'll run it. And then while this is running, I'm actually going to show you a couple things I forgot to mention when I was prepping this photo. Here, right, because we're doing black, or we're engraving on a black background, and we're engraving, you know, and the dot that we're making with the laser is white, we want to prep a negative image. So we just want to make sure that this image, this box right here is checked. If I was doing a photo on wood where my background is, you know, a lighter color and the dot I'm making with the laser is black, then I want to make sure that this isn't checked, that's not a negative image. So it would also apply for the, if I was doing this on cast, because that dot I'm making is white and, you know, the background is clear, we don't want it to be negative. We want just the regular image. Another thing I can show you, just if you guys want to get an idea of what it's going to do, if you click the simulate button, it tries to simulate what, you know, the lasers, what the photo is going to look like, how the laser is going to move. You can see I can press this bar over here, and it, you know, you can, as the, it previews what the laser is doing. Now the preview, you know, the look of it, it doesn't render perfectly. I wouldn't use this, you know, as the best guide, especially as I zoom out. You can see, like, it doesn't look the best. As I zoom in, you get more detail. It's not really made to give you, like, the perfect simulation. But it's a good guideline. You can see where, like, some of my dots might blow out, like in, you know, her back, the back of her leg, where, you know, you'll get more detail. It also inverts, so LightBurn is weird because this is what the laser is actually going to do. Because like I said, it's the negative image, but the preview lets you invert it to try to show what it's actually going to look like. Now obviously it doesn't simulate the material I'm going to be engraving on. Every material looks a little bit different. This obviously is not going to be how it looks like on wood or clear acrylic or, you know, I don't know. It's not a bad simulation for like granite or black acrylic engraving through it, but yeah, it's just another tool you can use. Okay, and we'll just let this run unless we have more questions from the chat. Aaron?
Yes, actually, there is a couple questions. I've got one. Alicia helped us out with the question by asking, is there a way to set up would it be possible to run multiple speed power tests at the same time? Yes, so we talked about previously in the previous lives that you can set up a file for a speed and power grid. There is also, inside LightBurn, there is also a feature built in for this. But simply, you could go and create just a grid of circles, and then with layers, by layering, you'll use with layering, you can set multiple layers, and then you set each layer for speed and power, so you can find really what the optimum setting is, both for line cutting and or filling. So whether you're engraving or cutting, you can set up speed and power grids for both. There's also a built-in feature in LightBurn. Sorry, give me a second. I'm finding it here.
While you're looking for that, Aaron, I can demonstrate how to do this the manual way. So for this, I just went back to my little test square, my 1 inch by 1 inch square. What I'm gonna do, I have this line and my engraving. If I wanted to cut out every single one and do maybe like, you know, 6 tests, I would group these together. I would create a little array. We'll do 3 by 2, we'll do 6 of these. And then what I'll do here, my line setting can obviously, I'm gonna cut at the same setting, but if I want to test different engravings, I'm just gonna click on each one. I'm gonna make it, we'll keep the first one black, we'll make it a different layer. Blue, red, green, yellow, orange. We're gonna go ahead. Oh, I created different. Okay, we're gonna undo all of that. And the main reason I'm doing that is because because these were still grouped every single time, I created a new line. I don't want to do that. We're going to ungroup all of these. I want my cut line to be the same, but we'll go here. We'll just create a different layer for each image. Orange. Make sure that your cut line is on the bottom layer. Obviously you want to cut after you're done engraving, but I can come in here, you can see it just automatically remembered what I did last. But if I wanted to go, hey, this is, you know, 20 power, 18 speed, I could do 2016, 2018, you know, 2020. And maybe for the bottom row, I could adjust power, or sorry, I could keep adjusting power, or I could adjust the speed. I could do 15, you know, I mean, let's keep this consistent. Let's make this, you know, 15, 16, 15, 18, and we could do 15, 20, and we could just see how it looks. And then what you might want to do here is, if you did do this, what I would do really quick is I just come in here, I just speed, let's do 20, power, 16, right? And then maybe I shrink this down, don't flip it, shrink it down, throw it somewhere I don't care on the file. If you didn't cut these out, you could put them like above and below, but you could just engrave this right here, copy, paste, grab this, change that. It's kind of hard to see, but I just know that this is 20 speed 18. Go back from text edit to select. So now I'm selecting it, Control C, Control V. Now I got a third one. We'll do 20 speed, 20 power. Go back to select, center this up a little bit. You know, you get the gist, right? Go through, put something, or just put it right below. Whatever you want to do to make sure you notate what you're doing. And then these ones are 15, 16, 15, 18, 15, 20. Or if you're good at keeping track of stuff, you could always just notate it next to them, whatever you want to do. Just make sure you remember what settings went with what image if you're going to do an array. You could also go in and you could play with the gamma. One thing I didn't show you in LightBurn is I could come in here and I can click on one of the images and I can play with the gamma in LightBurn to make the image either darker or lighter. You can see if I make it 1.2, I could make it, you know, I could bump it down to make that image lighter. And I could play with different gamma settings, different gamma and speed settings. You could play with DPI settings. I would suggest minimizing the settings that you change at one time. But yeah, Aaron, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I was trying to find it in my LightBurn settings, but I'm on my Mac, and I think the menus might be different on our systems. But there is an automated setting inside LightBurn. I will find it and post a screenshot of it to this video later, after this session, as I don't want to waste all the time searching for it, and I don't know why I'm lost for it right now.
So yeah, you could run this array, different speed, different power settings. You could adjust DPI, you could adjust gamma. Yeah, sky's the limit.
Derek, what type of spray paint did you use for that?
Oh, that is a good question. I just used Rust-Oleum. I wanted matte black would actually be better. But what I ended up getting, well, this one's semi-gloss, but I got flat black that I actually used, if you want to see it up here.
What type of, not the brand, but what actual like type of paint is that?
out of focus. The brand.
No, not the brand, but the actual type of paint.
Oh, acrylic enamel, just acrylic paint. Paint primer, bonds to plastic, metal, and more. I just picked it up from the store. They did what I needed to do. So, yeah, we're good. I think we are ready. The file finished, and we can pop it out of here.
And yes, thank you. It is under Laser Tools, but on my Mac computer, the LightBurn does not have a Laser Tools menu.
So now that it's done, I'm just going to rub it off with a paper towel, get that dust out of here. Another thing I could do is I could paint the back of it with just some water-based patio paint, if I so chose. But I'll show you, it looks good without any additional white filler in the back. So I'll show you guys over here next to our tests what that looks like. Yeah, you can see I got a pretty good ornament out of this. Now, if you were gonna paint it with the white patio paint, I'll show you. I would recommend a foam brush. I have one back here. We will do it in front of this camera in the machine. I think that's the best place. How's it looking there? I'm gonna put just a little bit, you know, on the different spots. That's actually quite a bit. Might have to rub some of that off, but we got some paint on there. Try not to get my hand in the shot. Just gonna take a foam brush. I'm just gonna lay it evenly across. I'm actually gonna put this up. I did not adjust the gamma at all. It would depend. For this image, I might make it a little bit darker, but it really depends on the photo. Now, when I'm engraving on a dark object, like a like a black or granite, or and my laser's making a white dot, I tend to make the image darker because the laser, in my experience, has a tendency to blow it out, right, to make the dots bigger than it might look on the file. But if I'm gonna engrave on like wood, I'll make it lighter, if that makes sense. So if I'm engraving on granite or black acrylic, I will I'll make the image darker. If I'm engraving on wood, I will make it lighter. So I just try to make an even layer of paint.
So just to clarify what Derek was saying,
I got some on the front of it.
When making the blacks darker or lighter depends on the material. So if you're using a lighter material, you might want to get more contrast by making the blacks a little bit darker. But if you're doing something like a black acrylic or something with a strong black background, that if you make it too bright, it might actually blow it out. Or if you make it too black, it might not engrave it enough to get any kind of definition.
You can look inside the machine. Oh, sorry to cut you off, Aaron. Here, I'll come over actually to this other camera over here with my other. So you can see here, I just put an even coat of paint. And then I'm not gonna set it down because it's not dry yet. You can see it just made that pop a little bit more.
Pull it back. Pull
I got some paint on the front.
Towards the camera.
Oh.
Yep.
You good?
Yeah.
You can see I got some paint on top here, but I still have my film layer. I'll wait until that dries, and then I'll take that film off, and we'll have a good ornament. So here, I'll put a piece of paper towel down, and I'll just kind of show you guys. Just peel this off, actually. The final results. How does it look?
Hey, Derek. Did you have anything to add for this one, or?
Think. That's what we got.
So if you're having any trouble with this process or any questions on this process, you can certainly ask us a question in the comments. We may not review we actually won't be reviewing the comments after the video necessarily, but you can send an email out to AP Lazer Live at aplazer.com. But if you need immediate tech support and you're looking for immediate response, please always contact our AP Lazer 24/7 tech support team. It truly is 24/7, and it is not just for machine problems. They will also help you scoot along if you're getting stuck on an image prep or design type process. They'll help you get that little bit of extra training to get over the hump to make sure you're able to do these images. As usual, our the extruded acrylic can be found in our web store. And as I mentioned earlier, very soon we will also have cast acrylic in the web store. But we have lots of really neat items on our web store. Please do not forget to visit that and see what's available that you might be able to get before Christmas to kind of make some unique and priceless memories for people. I think, thank you, Derek, for helping out today. You did a great job. And yeah, you did a great job. And it was a really great presentation and better than what I would have done. I still think my dog's cuter. I mean, but you can't argue with the Basset Hound of floppy ears. So
that's debatable.
We'll create a poll on the AP Lazer user group later. I'll mention again, if you don't have LightBurn already, again, it's worth the investment to get LightBurn. You can get LightBurn right now, and you don't have to update it. It's got like a year, and then you would have to pay like a small fee to upgrade it. But it doesn't mean you would stop using it. So if you buy it now, you'll be able to keep using it. And it's a really great software. It's not something you have to update. Of course, it's not very expensive if you do want to update it. The same thing with Corel. If you want to get just a standalone version, you can call our tech support team for that, and they'll get you set with that as well. An OEM version. Doesn't have to be updated each year. I have customers who are still using older versions. They refuse to update because they don't need to. It's got everything that they need in it. Again, if you have any additional questions, if it's immediate tech support, contact our tech support team. You can also send us an email to aplazerlive@aplazer.com. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can watch all of our lives coming up. We're going to have a lot of different series coming up, a lot of different processes coming up, including things you can't do with any other laser. We're going to do a canoe soon. We're going to do a door in just a couple weeks. We're going to do a big door. Just slide a big glass door under there. We're going to do some engraving on a glass door. Some really cool stuff. We're limitless here at AP Lazer. So thank you all for your time. And like Charles said, LightBurn is the bomb. You just copy, paste, and engrave, right? I thought somebody was going to get that in there, but we didn't get it in there. Copy, paste, and cut, or engrave. So we'll see you all next week. Same time, same bat channel. And what are we working on next week?
We're doing the smartwatch band? Or?
Yeah, we're doing some smartwatch bands, maybe some denim. Got some other things coming up. So a lot of exciting things this time of year. Thank you, and we will see you next week.